No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian.
This door is always open for you, except 4 of us got ahead of the snow so we could come and create this service together today. So we want to welcome you wherever you are and trust that you are warm and enjoying this beautiful Sunday together. We always like to begin our time together in prayer, and so I invite you to turn your awareness within this morning. We greet this day, this time together, with that deep recognition of appreciation. We give thanks for this gift of life. Some of us give thanks for snow. Some give thanks for sunshine and warmth. But hopefully each of us give thanks for the capacity to be grateful and for the recognition of the gift, the many gifts that we have in our lives. Today we explore what it is to know ourselves as a true spiritual being through the doorway called faith, and yet hopefully with fresh eyes and fresh understanding. And so we give thanks for this day and this time together. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Tomorrow we honor the life, the legacy, the dream, and the continuing of the fulfillment of that dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He's someone that definitely speaks to me and to my life, and living and being the beloved community is very important to me. I want to share with you a prayer that it's one of his prayers, and I think it just really exemplifies the depth of who he was. This prayer that Dr. King shared says, "Oh God, we thank you for the fact that you have inspired men and women in all nations and in all cultures. We call you different names. Some call you Allah, some call you Elohim, some call you Jehovah, some call you Brahma, some call you the unmovable mover. But we know that these names are all names for one and the same God. Grant that we will follow you and become so committed to your way that your kingdom, that we will be able to establish in our lives and in this world a brother and sisterhood, that we will be able to establish here a kingdom of understanding where men and women will live together as brothers and sisters and respect the dignity and work and the worth of every human being. In the name and in the spirit of Jesus, he prayed. Amen." It's just a beautiful prayer that speaks to our kindred spirit and the one power and the one presence. Well, in honor of Dr. King, Richard and I are going to step back in time. And one of our friends that we love having here is Rhoda Weaver. And she was here a while back, and she sang a beautiful Sam Cooke song entitled "A Change Is Gonna Come." Enjoy Rhoda Weaver.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me, don't hang around. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother. I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa! There have been times that I thought I couldn't last for long. Now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. And it's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will.
Oh, Rhoda, it's been a long time coming. Yes, it is, but a change is gonna come. Richard Shulman, thank you. I so appreciate you. Thank you for being here. We're so blessed to have this amazing man, this music director, and usually we have our whole band here, and we are blessed to have you here today. Our theme this year, 2022, is Be the Way. I sometimes say that I have to get out of my way in order to be the way. And what are we talking about, be the way? Well, as it is in heaven, so shall it be in earth. As it is in spirit, so let it be in earth. That if we, as Dr. King said, if we want peace, then we need to be the way for peace, of peace. We need to be peaceful resolution, a peaceful presence, a peaceful individual. Whatever it is that we're seeking, if we are to experience it, it is to be it. And so it's Be the Way is our theme this year. And so this Sunday, we're beginning a 12-week series that is titled Be the Way, Unlocking 12 Powers. Now, many of you may be familiar with what we call the 12 Powers. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, wrote a book, The 12 Powers of Man. Many people look at the 12 disciples and see unique attributes that sort of shine forth in the 12 different lives, and that those attributes are called powers. That Charles Fillmore believed that the 12 powers are 12 natural attributes of who we are as a spiritual being in human form, that we all already have these. And yet it's something that we can cultivate and further develop these attributes. But Charles Fillmore said he saw them as 12 natural expressions of the divine power that was inherent in each and every one of us. And so today we're going to begin with the first, the foundational power, which is called faith. The foundation of faith. Peter is the disciple that represents faith, the solid foundation, the solid rock. And so we're talking about foundational faith, spiritual faith. Now, the minute I say the word faith, or any word, but when we talk about faith, each and every one of us have an idea about what that means. What's your definition of faith? And for a lot of people, for most people, faith is going to have religious overtones. It can mean a lot of different things to different people. You hear the term, someone will say, so what is your faith? Meaning, are you Jewish? Are you Christian? Are you Baha'i? Are you Muslim? What is your faith? Other people may ask, do you have faith? Or you need to have more faith. Meaning, you need to really believe. I grew up in a church and a family that taught that faith meant accepting a particular set of beliefs. And if I questioned the beliefs, it was as if I was told my faith was wavering. But I don't believe that's faith. I believe that's accepting something or believing in a particular set of beliefs or a creed or an idea. Faith is believing. It includes believing, but it's so much more than that. And so for the next few minutes, I'm going to ask us, can we just set aside any ideas that we have about faith? Just move it aside, and let's just create an opening to explore, what is this spiritual attribute? What is this capacity of our being that is called faith? Foundational faith. I believe the essence of what spiritual faith is that faith is spiritual assurance. Faith is spiritual perception. We could say that faith is the assurance of your spiritual nature, your spiritual foundation, your connection with the greater reality. That faith is what holds you and allows you to behold that truth, your foundational identity. It's faith that opens you to the truth of your I am, the foundation of your being. That faith is called spiritual assurance, that you are the likeness of God, that in God you live and move and have your being, that the presence of God dwells and lives within you. And as I talked about last week, when we say that God dwells within us, we're not saying, not like a chocolate chip in a cookie, but what we're saying that the presence of God dwells within us as our very nature, our very constitution, our makeup, our potential, our reality. And that there's something within us that knows that. There's something within us that holds that truth, and that is faith. Faith is that knowing. And so it's not as if you have to muster up the faith. The knowing is there. The question becomes, how have we perhaps obscured the knowing? What other cases, I like to say we all, to a certain extent, have a case of mistaken identity. What other ideas or things have we accepted as the truth of our foundation, and therefore faith is not as prevalent in our life, faith as spiritual assurance. And so foundational faith, spiritual assurance, it's not about anything out there. It's not about dealing with conditions or trying to have enough faith to overcome something. It's not trying to overcome or fix anything. Faith is spiritual assurance. Faith is that part of you that knows that it knows that it knows that you are connected to the divine, that in God you live and move and have your being. Faith is that part of you that knows that holds that, and is always actively working in your life to bring it to the forefront of your life. That's faith. And that's why on this rock, on that foundation I'll stand. I will stand on the foundation of the assurance of my spiritual being, my spiritual foundation, that I've found my life on that understanding. If we look at the life of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, of all of the attributes that we're going to talk about over the next 12 weeks, faith was talked about more than any other. He emphasized and demonstrated faith. An example would be when he said, Abba, I thank you. I know you are always with me. That is faith speaking. Faith knows we're always connected. Faith knows that I am the truth of our being. And so faith is your spiritual assurance. It's that part of you that is that absolutely lives in the knowing, lives in the truth of who you are. And it yields spiritual perception. An interesting connection with faith, if you look in Buddhism, I like to study different religions to see the common threads. And if you look in Buddhism, the word for faith comes from the Pali, and the word is saddha, S-A-D-D-H-A. Saddha means faith, and in Buddhism, faith is the foundational factor of enlightenment. It's the same thing. It's the foundation of enlightenment, the foundation of knowing the truth of who we are. So faith is something that we all have, and faith holds that truth. Now, the presence of faith becomes stronger in our lives when we address what we could call our foundational issues. Remember, there were parables and scriptures in the Bible that says, build your house on a solid foundation, not on sinking sand. Build your house on a foundation that knows who you truly are. And so that, knowing that, is to build your house on the foundation of your spirit, of faith. And so as we grow in the awareness of the truth of our being, our faith naturally grows. They go hand in hand together. And it makes its way into the surface of our life. I was thinking about this week as I was also working on a memorial service for Reverend Andy Carlson. Many of you knew Reverend Andy. He was one of our associate ministers, and he made his transition the day after Christmas. And we were planning to have his memorial service today, but instead it will be next Sunday. And a couple of weeks before Andy made his transition, I had my last conversation with him. He was in the hospital, and I had a phone conversation with him, and his voice was very weak, but his spirit was very strong. And in the conversation, he reminded me, Andy said, I've been thinking a lot, Darlene, about Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity. He said, I've been thinking a lot about Myrtle and how Myrtle believed herself to be a person who was sickly, and how Myrtle heard an idea that she inherited the life of God, that she did not inherit sickness, but she inherited the life of God. And through working with that idea, she was cured of tuberculosis. And Andy told me, he said, I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about, when she was healed. And he said, some people may say, oh, well, she was healed 12 months after she started working with that idea. Oh, she was healed, actually took her about 18 months to be completely free of all the symptoms. And he said, but I know when she was healed the minute that idea reached her. She was healed the minute something in her said, yes, that is true. I inherit the life of God. You see, that is faith. Faith in us is always saying, yes, that is true. I inherit the life of God. And Andy went on to say, I may be looking pretty bad shape on one level. He said, but I know I am healed because I know who I am. And it brought tears to my eyes because the joy literally ran over. I know that man. I love that man. And I know he knew that. And it was just such a beautiful thing coming from him because that was faith speaking. His faith was saying, hey, the goal of life is not to live forever. None of us are going to live forever. The goal of life is to know who we are beyond this form, and yet to know it while we're in this form. And he knew it. And it brought such a peace. That's faith. Faith is that which is telling us that, hey, the point of life is not to live forever. The point is to know your essence, to know your foundation beyond the form, but yet to know it while you're in the form. That's what Jesus meant when he said, die before you die. Let go of trying to survive. Let go of your entanglement and identity and the belief that you can control any of this anyway, ultimately. and connect with the root, the core of your being. And that's what sets you free. And then chop wood, carry water, go about your life, live your life from that awareness. That's what it means to live in faith. That ultimately there's only, I believe, the essence of every prayer is one prayer, and it is, may I know the truth. Take me back to my foundation. Help me know where my foundational cracks are. Take me back to my foundation and help me live and know it and breathe it and be it and live it out every day of my life. And so we begin to awaken to this. It reminded me of a story that I know many of you may be familiar with. It's a true story that in the 1950s in Bangkok, Thailand, in a Buddhist monastery, there was a new highway coming through. And so in this particular monastery, they had this huge clay Buddha, but they had to move it because of the highway that was coming through. And so they began the arduous task of trying to lift this incredible clay Buddha. And as they began, using the equipment to start to lift it, these cracks started happening, and so they just stopped. And they covered it up, and that night, some of the head abbots were just walking around and looking, and they had their flashlight checking on it, and they noticed when they'd shine a light, that the light would be reflected back to them. As they got closer and they really shone the light inside of some of those big cracks, they could see there was something in there that was reflecting light back to them. Well, after further investigating, what they discovered that beneath that exterior of clay was a solid gold Buddha. And after they continued to investigate, what they realized was some almost 600 years prior, a golden Buddha had been the center of a monastery. And yet the Burmese militia had come through, and in the war and in the destruction, they had destroyed everybody in the monastery. And the monks, knowing that probably was going to happen, they covered up their precious golden Buddha with clay and some plaster so it wouldn't look like it was worth anything. And it worked. They left it. But everybody died off, and the future generations didn't know what was there until they started to move it. That, faith is that part of you that knows you are that gold. You are the God in expression, that at the reality of who you are at the depth of your being, that's who you are. And you can stand on that when life shakes you and when life cracks you, it's simply pointing to, you go back to the foundation, go back to the center. That's what faith is really about. A lot of people may say, yeah, you can say that, and you can say that we can have peace, you can say that we're expressions of God, but that's not my experience. It's not my reality. And again, I talked about this some last week, that there's a difference between our experience and our reality, our potential. That many of us can have very different experiences, and yet in reality, we all have the capacity for divine love. We all have the capacity for perfect peace. We all have the capacity for these things. And so it's continually about going back to the foundation and opening ourselves to a greater awareness, the greater truth of who we are. The scripture says we walk by faith and not by sight. We walk by faith. We walk by the assurance of our spiritual nature. We walk by the assurance of our spiritual foundation. We walk by the assurance that I live within a greater reality of greater possibilities. I live within that as a part of my reality. That's how I live in God, and God lives in me. And that's what I walk by. I walk by faith and not simply what appears before my eyes. Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith told a story some years ago when he was at Unity Village, and this story just really struck me because of the power of it and how it relates to our lives. He told about a time in his congregation. Dr. Michael Beckwith is the minister of the Agape spiritual community in California. And at the time, they had planned a cruise. And this was early in the year, January or February of a new year. and they were announcing a cruise that the Agape Spiritual Center was going to be offering, and they were bringing in a lot of spiritual speakers, and it was going to take place in the fall. And so he just announced it one Sunday, told people tickets for the cruise would be on sale in the bookstore, and I don't remember the price, but it was a cruise, and so it had a price tag to that. And he said after the service that a woman had waited around until the line cleared out, and she went up to him and said, Reverend Michael, I just feel it. I know I'm supposed to go on that cruise. I want to go, but I live on a limited income, and I just don't have the income. So do you have any scholarships? Because, Reverend Michael, I want to go. And he said, so you're telling me that you don't have the income or the means to afford it right now? And she said, that's right. I live on a fixed income. I don't have the means to afford it, but I want to go. Do you have a scholarship? And he said, yeah, the cruise is several months from now, and I'm hearing you say that you don't have the funds now, but I'm hearing you claiming that for the next several months. And she sort of took a step back and said, well, Reverend Michael, I live on a fixed income. Nothing's going to change. I don't see how that could change, and so I'm asking for a scholarship. And he said, if I gave you a scholarship this far out, based on what you just said, it would be contrary to everything I believe. And these are my words now, but essentially what he said was, what you're describing is not a money issue. What you're describing is a foundational issue. So what he did, he said, let's do this. He said, would you be willing to meet with one of our prayer practitioners? Would you be willing to meet with them once a week and to just begin to spend some time thinking about the truth of your being? Would you begin to work with some ideas about who you really are and what's really possible for you? And she said, absolutely, I'll do that. And so she began to work with one of their practitioners, and so what began to happen there is they were focusing on what really needed healing in her life. You see, she had a case of misperception. She was defining her potential by her current situation. I want to say that again. She was defining what was possible for her, what was even possible 9 months down the road. She was defining her potential by her current situation. She had a mindset that was somewhat stuck. Her foundation had inherent within it some limitations that weren't really limitations that the Creator had established for her. They were limitations that she had set in place. She had a sense of disconnection from, really believing that she could access ideas or that something new could possibly happen in her life. And so it's really important to me that when you hear this, you understand that when the prayer practitioner was working with her, they weren't working on how do I increase my prosperity? How do I generate more money? They were working on foundational issues. And I'm not saying that you don't work on that stuff, but I'm saying, may I know the truth, that to me, what I believe, every issue stems from the foundational issue. That's where faith, that we go back to, we check our foundation. It's a foundational issue. And so she began to work with the idea, some things like this. She began to work with and hold these ideas in prayer. I am a divine being, and I draw my existence from a divine, greater reality. All things are possible in the divine reality in which I live and move and have my being. I am a divine being, a reservoir of inexhaustible creativity. I am a divine being, a reservoir of energy, of ideas, of good. I am here for God, and I am here to fulfill the potential of my soul. I am that I am. My life is the life of God. My potential dwells in the kingdom of God. I am the way for greater good to manifest in my life. Now, can you imagine if you really started working with those ideas every day and held yourself to sit in prayer and to really, they're called affirmations. You don't affirm something to make it true. You're affirming it because it is true. It's that part of you that says, yes, I know this is true. You begin to work with these things, and then you begin to move out affirmations and denials. Denials is the dislodgement, the moving out of the things that aren't the truth of who you are. and are not serving your soul's highest and best interest. And so she really began to work with those ideas. And can you see how she was working with her I am? She was working with the assurance of her spirit, of who she was as a spiritual being. Well, it didn't take her but about 3 or 4 months, way before the cruise happened. She came in one Sunday morning. She went straight to the bookstore. She walked in, and she not only purchased one, she purchased two tickets for that cruise, paid full price. And when she purchased two, she took one, and then she took the second one and gave it back and said, I have been healed of erroneous ideas, of beliefs. My faith has made me and restored me, and I want to give this back. And the next person that comes in and inquires about one, please pay it forward. That there was something in her that broke loose when she began to work with and deal with her foundational issues. So what in our lives do we need to shore up? Is there anything in your foundation that you're seeing at the surface level some cracks? And are you aware of any ways or any places you may be continuing to reinforce limiting beliefs? Richard, would you give me that song? Are you aware of any limiting beliefs that you keep reinforcing? And what would it look like if you spent time at your foundation, in communion with the fountainhead of your being? You see, the reason faith is the foundation is because an assurance of who we are in spirit, that's where namaste comes from. It's a reminder, it's the practice. May I remember who you are in spirit and who I am in spirit. To spend time investing in the awareness of your foundation comes through prayer and meditation and affirmation, spiritual study, a diligence. The rest of the 11 powers that we begin to work with will all point back to faith, because faith will be woven through all of these. So would you be willing to spend some time at your foundation? Would you be willing to write some I am statements? I am a divine being, and I draw my existence from a divine greater reality. All things are possible in that reality. I am a divine being, a reservoir of inexhaustible creativity. I am a divine being, a reservoir of love, of compassion, of goodness, of whatever it is you may be seeking. Would you spend some time creating some I am truths? Write them down, things that you know to be true, and yet it may not currently be your experience. And that's the beauty, is we have experiences, but they don't have us. That we can continually shed, I guess, the moldings from those experiences and live in a greater way from our foundation. That's what faith is doing in our lives. How are you being called to shore up your foundation? To know that God is, I am. The reality of God is, and therefore I am. The reality of God is, and therefore I am. Let's take it into a time of meditative prayer. So I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light that I am. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I am opening. I am opening. I am the way. I am opening. I am opening. We turn our awareness within. To say that I am opening implies that I am creating spaciousness, availability. I am making myself available. I am moving out and moving beyond. I am shaking off the dust of all that I have collected heretofore. I don't disregard the meaning, the value, but I am making myself available. And therefore I'm willing to let go. And I become completely available. I go to the inner chambers of my heart. I go within. I go deeper within to the foundation of my being, that which is free of form or attachment, that which is I am. And in this place, I become the sacred witness. I bear witness to myself, the essence of all that I am. May I know the truth. May I live in the assurance. May I live in the assurance of my spiritual reality, my spiritual foundation. May I live in that knowing. I call forth that capability of faith, that part of me that knows it and that holds that knowing. That part of me that is always bringing me into communion with that reality. I give thanks. I give thanks because as everything else settles, that's what's left. The essence of who I am is an expression of all that is. And on that I will stand. The reality of God is. And I am that. So I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light that I am. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light that I am. I am opening. I am opening. I am the way. I am opening. we are opening. May we know that we are the way. Faith is that activity of your being. Faith is that capability that holds that knowledge and holds you in that. Richard, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, Tia and Donna. Thanks for those of you that have joined us today. We also want to thank you for your continued support, just the many ways that you continue to make this available in person and online. Thank you so much. There's some exciting classes and things coming up starting tomorrow night, so you can check out the website and just see the things that are coming up. I also want to let you know that we're going to be wrapping up with a beautiful song by Kat. Kat is singing a song by Eddie Watkins Jr. that says, "Get out of the way. Get out of the way and be the way." So we're going to send you off today with the song by Kat, a song by Eddie Watkins Jr., sang by Kat Williams, "Get out of the way and be the way."
Running around facing this and that, giving it up to God and then you're taking it back. Just release and let it go. Don't have to think about it anymore. Get out of the way. 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 Get out the way and let God do his thing. You look like the weight of the world's on your back. Just take a deep breath and cut yourself some slack. All that drama ain't no good for you. You can't change what is if you wanted to.